I guess let's start with the Star Wars stuff, because that's quite
Star Wars, bam.
big. Yeah. So EA's exclusive deal with Star Wars is coming to an end next year, which is why you've already seen some other studios announcing Star Wars projects like Quantic Dream and Ubisoft, because those will all be releasing after that deal is up. But yeah, I guess as the last hurrah, this is reportedly EA's last Star Wars games for some time. Respawn is overseeing 3 games from them. So the first one is going to be a sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is apparently due for release either later this year or early next year. So that's like imminent. Then there's a Star Wars first-person shooter that is in early development over at Respawn. Not DICE, it's not Battlefront 3. It's being made by the Medal of Honor Above and Beyond team, which made a VR game, but the game itself is not a VR game. So, yeah. And then Respawn is producing, they're not developing, a third game, which is a sort of, it's described as a strategy game. And it's being handled by a team that is made up of former like XCOM folks. So yeah, whatever the hell that is. I think the final two, the shooter and the strategy game, are still like early in dev, so those won't come for a while. But yeah, EA putting all of their faith in Respawn, I guess, after Jedi Fallen Order did super well and Battlefront 2 did not, and DICE is kind of like still struggling to keep their head above water with Battlefront 2042 anyway. So
Battlefield, yeah.
Battlefield, sorry, yeah. So yeah, that's cool. More Star Wars. I mean, I'm mostly hyped because Fallen Order is a great game.
Don't listen to Glenn on Twitter.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Glenn is wrong. Dreamer 12, 11, I don't know, Roman numeral. Just don't listen to his Dreamer, don't listen to his opinions on Fallen Order. He's
he says wrong. Fallen Order is trash, but we know that his opinion's wrong. So
just wrong, just absolutely fucking wrong. Game's good. Game could be better, and I'm expecting the sequel to, clean up a lot of the things that made the first one a bit of a slog here and there. So yeah, fucking stoked for that.
Gimme. Yeah, that's cool. I guess in other game announcements, also this is quite left field, but not unexpected, I guess. Crytek has teased Crysis 4 nearly a decade after its last entry. I did not realize that Crysis 3 came out 10 years ago. Now I feel old.
Yep. It's hectic. Yeah.
I remember
and also
playing those games.
Game that is like early in development. It's weird because the Respawn announcement and this one definitely felt more announcements for recruiting than actual announcing games. You know what I mean? And we actually missed one on our list, but Blizzard also announced a new game this week.
Yes, yeah.
It's funny, they announced an unannounced game. Like, you can't call a game unannounced if you announced it. Like, come on. But they're making a survival game set in a universe. So it's like, it's all these recruiting ads essentially for games that are years away. Crytek said that this is still in very early stages, so I don't expect this to come out for quite a long time. But I guess they put out those remasters last year, and they were like, "Cool, people are still into Crysis, so let's make Crysis 4."
I mean,
this game will be very different.
Yeah, because I was gonna say Crysis. I loved that whole trilogy. Really enjoyed playing all of them, and at the time, I think they were not only visually like revolutionary, because we all know the age-old meme, but can it run Crysis? There's a reason, because Crysis is like years ahead of its time on in terms of hardware, but in terms of shooting and that, like, I think those games are also pretty forward-thinking in that, you've got this suit, how you choose to tackle this mini sandbox is up to you.
Especially the first one, being so open-ended with its combat scenarios. The last two became more linear shooters, more traditional shooters, but that first one still holds up really well today.
So I do wonder how hard they lean into a modern shooter with, okay, you've got this futuristic suit, let's introduce like a proper RPG talent system or experience system or something, because that's what games do
Yeah,
these
they'll
days.
need to do something. They can't just be like, okay, this is another game where you can cloak and put up shields and you shoot through enemies. Like that will not fly.
And they also can't be like, cool, you can cloak, but here's a talent pool, you can cloak for an extra second or two. It's
Yeah,
like
no,
they need
it needs to
to
be a lot
they
better.
need to be
You know what
creative
they
with
should
that.
do? They
So
should look at like, because if one thing in those games that is aged poorly, it's like the sort of just general platforming. It just looks stupid. So like, inject some Titanfall into there, get some sick ass mobility into the suit or something. So
I
yeah, I
will
don't know how they're
I will
gonna do
make
it.
it a best selling game with just one inclusion, grapple hook. It's simple.
You see?
We
You
saw
see?
Master Chief did it and it worked. Halo, slow, boring game, snooze. I'm
Oh,
joking.
Crysis 3 back in the day jumped on the bandwagon of we've got a bow and arrow, and that was the hot thing back in
It really
2011
was, yeah.
or whatever it was. So yeah, dope.
Grapple hook. I actually forgot about that. It was funny when you think about it. It's this futuristic soldier with this hardcore armor with a bow and arrow. And
Yeah,
everyone was like,
stealthy
whoa,
with a bow and arrow,
that's
like a compound
awesome.
bow. What a weird time, because
What a
that was when
time.
I think the Tomb Raider reboot had come out. Then Crysis had its crossover. There was something else with the crossover I can't remember, but yeah, interesting times.
Yeah, sorry, and then last we mentioned Blizzard's a survival game. Now Xbox have also come out saying that they are working on a Monster Hunter style game. Well, it's reported that Xbox haven't come out. It's reportedly in the works at Certain Affinity. So
Yeah, Certain Affinity apparently making a Monster Hunter style game, which cool. That sounds cool. I mean, if Xbox is going to continue to try and capture a market in Japan, that's a cool way. Although Monster Hunter in Japan has always been popular with the portable versions. So yeah, curious to see how that pans out. But I mean,
how did
they could
World sell in Japan? Because I know,
World
Monster Hunter Rise is
sold pretty well. Yeah,
Rise is the
World is
portable one,
still,
but yeah.
yeah, World still sold pretty well, but it's like, Monster Hunter grabbed Japan because it was like on PSP and then 3DS and stuff like that. So but yeah, I mean, I would take a new style of game like that. Certain Affinity is apparently also developing the Battle Royale mode for Halo Infinite, so whatever the fuck that ends up being. So yeah, I mean, I'm down to see more new IPs from Microsoft. So
Monster Halo 3 Battle Royale, let's go. My goodness. Cool. Let's keep with this trend. We've got games announced and we've got games going gold. So Horizon Forbidden West has gone gold, meaning this game is coming.
Hooray.
Huzzah. It's coming. There was PS4 footage revealed, and the game still looks pretty damn good. She's like,
I mean, it definitely looks like it had to make concessions for PS4.
For sure.
Absolutely, it's not a case of like you can't see the difference between the two, but for a PS4 game, still looks pretty okay. To be fair, they showed it on PS4 Pro. How the fuck that thing is going to look on a normal base PS4, no idea. But
who knows?
Still looks good.
Yeah, I mean,
running at a lower resolution and frame rate, but still looks pretty good.
Yeah, just the fact that it's running on hardware that's 8 years old now, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
considering that, yeah, look
at that
really
grapple
good.
hook, real good.
I mean, the thing that's I'm most curious about is like, it's not really the visuals that are held back by older hardware. I mean, you can always tone down certain elements. It's more design, like Halo Infinite is very evident with this. Like, there are certain aspects of the game that you're like, okay, this is clearly done this way because it had to work on older hardware. The world is this constrained, the levels are laid out like this because of that. So how Horizon deals with that will be interesting if it needs to. I guess because Guerrilla already made an open world game on PS4 as opposed to 343, maybe it will be easier for them to adapt to that cross-gen mentality. But yeah, we'll see. I'm super stoked on this game. The reviewers already have it, so it's definitely coming out. It's out on what, February 18th, I think?
Yeah. I think it will be a hit. I don't see them
I think
missing
so.
with this.
Yeah.
It's
I did.
also it's like you often mention some. I mean, not it's not always the case, but often sequels are better than the originals purely because like it's the same game, but
Mm-hmm.
there's new mechanics and new coats of paint with optimizations that maybe the last game struggled with, whatever. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Horizon already, we know that, if you want to dive back into history, it was almost shunned, unfairly so, because the game was really good, but it came out alongside Breath of the Wild, like more or less at the same time. And people are like, but I can't climb anything I see in Horizon, whereas I
Yeah.
can in Breath of the Wild. So, and I mean, we've mentioned this plenty, but the fact that they've taken straight inspiration from Breath of the Wild with their little paraglider already, I'm like, cool. The game needs something like that. Let's see how it translates now. So
Yeah. I think
very
so.
keen.
I think they addressing all the right things
Mm,
in the sequel. I just the thing that bothered me, especially now playing it again, recently, the opening to the game is quite like slow, and the
mm,
tribal stuff is not the most interesting part of that
yeah.
game, but they go into it hard at the beginning. So yeah, I want more of the futuristic nonsense that the
Mm,
final third of that game was so strong with.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm very excited for the sequel. So
Speaking
yeah.
of open world games, Elden Ring has also finally gone gold,
Ooh,
which means
ooh,
this
ooh,
game's coming out February 25th. Cannot
ooh.
wait. The February's just mad with
Yeah, February is just
I can't.
absolute chaos with
Okay,
like
I've
Dying
not
Light
watched.
2, Horizon, then this, like,
It's
oh
like
my god.
three, and then I mean Pokemon Arceus just came out,
Pokemon
so
just came
it's
out. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Goodbye, sleep. I'll miss you. I've not watched much footage on Elden Ring outside of the initial launch trailer, well, not the launch, the
yeah.
announcement trailer, and I'm obviously
Same.
gonna keep it that way because I want to go in fresh, but cannot wait for this game.
Absolutely cannot wait. I'm
Phew.
so hyped for this game. Yo, it's so cool. Like I cannot wait for like an open world take on this franchise.
Mm,
I
exactly.
There's just so much like I'm excited to see because like you, I haven't watched tons of
Mm,
footage purposefully because I felt like with Sekiro I watched too much.
mm.
So yeah, super stoked to see what this whole new world is about.
Let's
So, yeah.
let's just point out that Sekiro was game of the year in its year.
Wait,
Different
when
game.
is this? 28th of Feb,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's 25th of February
Okay,
25th.
so it's
And
still some time.
Sekiro broke the From Soft formula of by introducing a whole different posture system, whatever. But this is a return to more traditional Dark Souls, but in an open world setting. Which, like, will it hit? Will it miss? I don't see it missing, but can't wait. So, yeah.
Mm, mm.
Um. Okay. trying to segue here, I guess. Speaking on games coming out, let's talk about games you can play soon.
Okay, okay.
PlayStation Plus games for February. Meh. We've
Y-
got
Yeah,
EA
yeah.
Sports UFC 4 on PS4.
Do you like rumbling with people on the floor in a octagon?
Why is this site
UFC's with you,
shaped
man.
so weird on our preview? Sorry about that. um, but one great inclusion here, which will confuse the hell out of people. I saw you tweets
Yeah.
earlier this week, is Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, not to be confused with Tiny Tina's, was it Wonderland,
Wonderlands. Yeah.
which is
So
coming out in
yeah,
March.
this is wow. When I first saw this, I was like, wait a minute, that game's only coming in March. How's it on PS Plus this month? And then Darren actually points out, he's like, no, this is actually
It's the
standalone DLC for
yeah.
Borderlands 2. And I was like, wow.
So can I tell you, Borderlands 2, great game. Assault on Dragon Keep, fantastic DLC. So this is actually a really good, it's a great
It's
free
kind of like
game.
what Wonderlands is built off of,
Yeah.
essentially.
So it's if you've never played it, would highly recommend diving in. It's a fantastic DLC, but it is not
Mm.
Wonderland. And then Planet Coaster, which is cool. Never played it, but yeah,
Only on PS5.
only on
Yeah.
PS5.
Not,
That's
not a
your
strong month for PS Plus, given, Sony has kind of been using PS Plus as a monthly way to be like, cool, we can give away big games as well. while Game Pass keeps trucking along. But
Yeah.
this one's not fantastic.
Not great. And then over on Xbox, probably worse.
Yeah, listen, Games of Gold with
Uh,
Xbox hasn't been great for a very long time, purely because, well, like, why does it need to be? I fully expect Games of Gold to disappear
it
this
has
year.
to disappear
Like,
at some
yeah,
stage. And when I say that, that's not
it just makes
insider.
no
That's
sense.
not
Yeah.
insider knowledge. I just suspect that it will disappear at some stage because,
The one game that I'm curious. So okay, so firstly, the 5 games are Broken Sword 5, The Serpent's Curse,
Mhm,
Aerial Knights Never Yield,
mhm.
Hydrophobia. Hydrophobia is actually pretty cool. It's like a puzzle platforming survival game where
Mm.
your protagonist is constantly a threat of drowning. I played it on Xbox 360. It's pretty good.
My goodness,
Uh, and
Band
then
of Bugs.
the one that I'm curious to play is Aerial Knights Never Yield.
Hmm.
It came out on Switch last year. I remember it was a big feature on the Nintendo Directs. Yeah, it's cool.
Mm.
Uh,
What
it looks cool. Kind of want to try it out.
what gets me is that it says, so let's just read the blurb. Take on the role of Wally, a mysterious character always in motion as you run, jump, slide, or dash to the soundtrack of Doname Sama. With the average runtime of an action movie, this is a game built for both speedrunners and casual gamers alike. So it wholeheartedly embraces that it is a shorter experience, but it's meant to be played as fast as possible. And I like me some of that.
I mean, you
So
should play in one sitting type of thing.
exactly. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's quite a cool addition. But
that's cool. Yeah.
games with gold, not the
Yeah,
greatest.
not the greatest.
But yeah, there's
But
so
I
you,
mean, when you compare even PS Plus, last month had like Persona 5 Strikers, like
yeah,
PS Plus this month, yeah.
yeah.
Also, thank you for redeeming that on my account because I saw the email come through. I was like, oh yeah, to redeem that.
I always forget that you'll get an email. So I wonder sometimes because I always just assume you've redeemed stuff. So
Number of times I'm just like, I like get a thing and Sony's like, thank you for your purchase. I'm like,
like,
what?
oh god.
Yeah, they need to change the email format for that because that is ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm claiming a free game. Yeah. And then so theme of the news this week: lots of games to look forward to in future, lots of games to look forward to this month, and then lots of games to play now.
Much
But
to think
in a
about.
complete
Very sorry.
180 and pivot to that theme, the last news piece this week: Ubisoft responds to backlash over NFT program. So I'll come out and say that NFT is still over my head. Like I very, very vaguely understand the technology, but I do understand that it's perceived very negatively by a lot of people, and there's also a lot of money involved, which is why it seems a lot of big companies are trying to find ways to leverage this technology for good and bad reasons, whatever. But I know gamers are very, very anti NFT, and Ubisoft coming out saying that they've got an NFT program has not been received well. So I don't know if you can offer just an overview of this. Really, I don't expect like an NFT guide for dummies or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, I think I've been quite forward about this that I think like blockchain and the stuff that underpins NFTs is fascinating. It's just being used in the most boring ways possible, especially when it comes to gaming. I think at least Ubisoft with its Ubisoft Quartz thing is just like microtransactions on the blockchain, and it doesn't need to do that, especially
Yeah.
when it's putting these items on a blockchain and marketplace that it controls.
Yeah.
It's like the antithesis of not decentralized, but trying to use decentralized technology just
For your
because
own purposes.
shareholders like it. Yeah.
But so correct me if I'm wrong. Just based on what you've just described, it's like selling items on a Ubisoft marketplace. If that's the idea, why has Steam not leveraged NFTs for that same reason of I've
Well,
got
I mean, Steam kind of has that system. Like, Steam is the good example of like why you don't specifically need blockchain.
exactly it exists without blockchain.
Exactly. They have marketplaces for their games, and they have all the trading card stuff, and they've got a marketplace that exists on their back end. And they've been pretty vocal in the past that they don't want NFT powered games on their platform. I think that will change eventually because I think the sort of money in this space is something that the gaming industry won't ignore. But yeah, I mean that's exactly the point. You don't need the blockchain for the sort of things that are being pitched today. You do not need them. There are ideas maybe that will be present in the future that might require this sort of decentralization for security or for authentication purposes. Because the one thing that I've always thought of that might be interesting is like digital your licenses to digital games, because digital games that you purchase aren't, you're not buying the game itself, you're buying a license to that game, and that gives you the ability to download that game as long as that game is available to download. We've seen it many times, where a game just disappears from a marketplace, and like look at PT. You might have redeemed it, you might have the license to that key on your account, but you cannot physically download it because you actually don't own the game. And with that comes a sort of like problem with ownership. Like digital games cannot be traded between players because there's no system in there. And yes, a Sony or a Microsoft could make that system similar to Valve, where like a trading card, you are trading licenses to games.
Yeah.
And my vision or my thought of was like NFTs could be used to compensate for that, to be able to sell licenses between platforms. Like you have a license for Pokemon, or okay, let's use a third-party game, for example, like Call of Duty, and you want to trade that license to someone who only plays on PlayStation and you play on Xbox. Like an NFT is a sort of like cross platform method that could be used to do that, but you'd still need buy-in from Sony and Microsoft because those keys would still need to work on their
redeemed.
So like, do you need blockchain then at that point, because you'd still need like oversight on that whole process? So I agree that this is a sort of solution looking for a problem to solve in the gaming space right now, and I get where Ubisoft is coming from, where they want to explore it, because I think that all of these companies were somewhat blindsided by cryptocurrency in general, and they kind of don't want to miss the boat in case this becomes a thing that does not go away. But I think the sort of ideas that Ubisoft is kicking around are really shitty at the moment. So they're not enticing.
You've actually presented something that I never thought about, where an actual application of NFT in a gaming space that I could see being a thing one day, maybe, if you had buy-in from everyone, is that thing of this game is launching, buy it for $60, play it anywhere. Like, doesn't matter if you play on PlayStation or Switch, whatever, you own the license or however it works. Like, that could be pretty cool. Like, then it doesn't matter what platform you have, you just own the game. But again, like you pointed out,
it would be like, and I think smart contracts that underpin NFTs, they can be encoded to give royalties to publishers. So publishers could encode a 30% or whatever the fucking thing they want on their, like Steam does. When you trade something on their marketplace, Steam always gets a cut. So this, in my opinion, solves the issue that publishers have been against for such a long time. They say, well, the secondhand digital games market is destroying them because they get no cut from that, and they could do that with digital. But at the same time, if they're going to an all digital future, they hold all the cards. So why would they willingly create a secondhand market when they could like, there is no secondhand market. If you want the game, you have to buy it. There's no point. So like, I don't see them, if their end goal is to make money, which it is, then that's what they do. That's why Steam doesn't allow you to trade games, because it's much more lucrative for Steam for you to buy the game outright. So yeah, I don't know. I do think, much like Bitcoin and Ethereum, NFTs will be a thing that remain. I just think the way we think about them now will change fundamentally, because they can be used in so many more interesting ways. So many more useful ways that actually justify, the obtuseness of the entire process at the moment. But yeah, maybe Ubisoft will find that. But their aggressive nature to defending their current implementation is a bit crappy. But
Yeah,
anyway.
the news is basically Ubisoft responding to the backlash, and I'll just end with this quote. Where was it? It was this one, right? The Ubisoft VP says, so it's really for them, it's really beneficial, but they don't get it for now. So basically saying like gamers don't understand what's going on here. Nobody understands it but Ubisoft. So again, that drew even further backlash.
I do think
story
though
pending,
there
I
is
guess.
a lot of the friction you see now, like online, is definitely coming from a space also, where the people talking about this most are unfamiliar with how some of the biggest games in the industry are being operated at the moment. Like people look at things like play to earn, which is a big thing. They're like, I play games for entertainment. I don't want to make it feel like another job. And that is 100% fair.
Yeah.
At the same time, the biggest games in the world right now all have battle passes, which is the same thing.
Play to earn.
Like to me, it's the same thing. Like new seasons of Fortnite come with battle passes so that you can continue to play the game with the idea of unlocking things in a battle pass. And to me, the two aren't being connected because it's like you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And the game, there's this assumption that the game isn't designed for that. But of course it's designed for that. Like Fortnite is specifically designed to push you towards a battle pass and to keep you playing because you are consistently rewarded.
Yeah.
And the idea that Ubisoft is presenting here is like, what if you could get rewarded and then sell those things to make money? And that becomes a bit murky because if the design itself is designed in a way to get people in so that they can earn money, quote unquote, like how does that influence the design of games? And I get that apprehension there, but it's like, it's also like a lot of games are doing kind of that already. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch unfold.
NFT stories pending, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is something. It's not going to go away.
No.
It's definitely not going to go away. I mean, we didn't put it in the list, but Ubisoft also became a key investor in a NFT based game called Frontier this week. So yeah, they are definitely fucking full steam ahead with that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell, that's news.